Hey, it's Ryan Seacrest. Life comes at you fast, which is why it's important to find some time to relax. A little you time. Enter Chumba Casino. With no download required, you can jump on anytime, anywhere for the chance to redeem some serious prizes. So treat yourself with Chumba Casino and play over 100 online casino-style games, all for free. Go to ChumbaCasino.com to collect your free welcome bonus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Good evening. Welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring women-owned businesses from across the country. And now, for your host, Kimberly McLemore.
All right, good evening and welcome to WSBI, your Resource for Success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring entrepreneurs and women-owned businesses from across the country. I am your host, Kimberly McLemore, the CEO and founder of the Women's Small Business Initiative, LLC, and an award-winning author. Welcome to another night of sharing. With us, we have our special guest, Merrily Orsini. Merrily is recognized widely as an innovative aging care thought leader with a laser-sharp understanding of the market. In 1981, she started her first aging care business, a geriatric care managed home care agency that she grew exponentially and successfully sold, earning her a prestigious EY Entrepreneur of the Year award. In 1998, she founded corecubed, a marketing firm dedicated exclusively to aging care providers growing their businesses, where she is now founder and board chair. Her insights into the future of aging care add to her remarkable marketing expertise in the home, health, hospice, and home-centered care industries. While her specialization is private duty home care, her span of her influence encompasses all models of home-based care. Orsini has held many roles in the industry, including service for numerous national organizations. But in 2017, Merrily was honored to receive the Silver Lifetime Achievement Stevie Award for Women in Business. Merrily continues to be highly active at the national level, speaking at regional and national events when an aging care marketing expert or industry futurist perspective is sought. So without further ado, please help me welcome to my platform, Miss Merrily Orsini. Hello, Merrily. How are you?
Oh, hi, Kimberly, and I am absolutely fabulous today. How about you?
I am doing good. I tell you what, that was a mouthful. I was like, Lord have mercy. I was hoping I was going to get through all of that portion with a breath or two. So, you have a phenomenal bio, but I was like, help me get through this because I didn't want to miss anything that was important. So I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thank you. You know, Kimberly, when you live as long as I have, there's a lot of years to write about. So
Wow.
It's been fun, I will say that.
Well, I bet it has, and we are so excited to have you on, and the listeners are going to learn a lot about you and what you have accomplished and what you're continuing to do in the world of innovative aging care, because it's, something that we don't always talk about, but is absolutely something that we need to know. But really, before we actually dive into some of the basic interview questions I like to ask, please tell the listeners just a little bit more about who Miss Merrily Orsini really is.
Thank you. I started in the entrepreneurial world with my first business in 1981. But what that did is actually got me interested and passionate about care at home. So I've, grown businesses successfully. I've had some failures, and currently I am using everything I've learned for all these years and trying to help several things. One is educate about care at home, and the other is I'm working as executive vice president with Access, which is a global healthcare technology company whose software actually focuses on making care in the home easier. Mm-hmm. And of course, I'm still involved with corecubed, the marketing component of the care at home industry. So, and I am a grandmother with 4 grandchildren within walking distance of where I now live in Asheville, North Carolina. and continuing to enjoy work every day. I probably should be retired, but I don't see that in my future anytime soon. I'm having too much fun.
Well, and that's all it's about. And, I always hear, we all work for retirement, but then I hear a lot of people say once they start retiring or they get retired, they're so bored, they actually go back to doing something. So, it's always good to utilize your mind, because as we all know, if we sit still too long, everything starts to really shut down. So I'm glad that you are actually doing something that you love. And that's really the most important part of anything that we do, whether you're in retirement mode or not. But I really want to learn a lot about what did you do prior to jumping into business. Obviously, you've been in business for many years. Before you started corecubed, tell us a little bit more about what you were doing before you got to that point, and how did the industry or how did aging care establish and having homes be a part of something that you were very interested in?
Well, when I started my first business in 1981, I was in a personal situation where I knew I was going to have to support myself and my two young sons at that time, and I have a master's degree in social work. And if you have any idea what social workers make,
Right.
It didn't look like it was going to be a promising future for me and my son. So I really just sort of hung out my shingle and found some things that I thought I could do, and just really started working in a business that was trying to provide help for other people. And it was pretty soon after that I got my first client, who it turned out that she had Alzheimer's disease. We didn't call it that at the time, but we were called in to babysit. And that was really the beginning of a very long and successful and in-depth career in caring for people in their own homes. And that we took that client, we ended up, her husband actually, who had hired us so we could get out of the house for a few hours a day, he died unexpectedly. And so we ended up inheriting this woman who had Alzheimer's disease, sort of at the mid-stage of Alzheimer's disease. So, Kimberly, I read everything I could. I got master's level social worker students involved. We had 3 schools at the time in Louisville that were offering masters in social work. And so I supervised master's level social work students and really worked on how do we make this from frailty to death experience for people more enjoyable and satisfactory and safe. And I had no models to follow, because there were some people also doing what I was doing at the same time, and we did find each other a couple of years later and formed a national organization. At the time, it was called the National Association of Professional Geriatric Care Managers. Now it's called Aging Life Care Professionals. Okay. And so we banded together. We started working on how do we provide care for people, again, from frailty to the grave care, and how do we work with the current system to provide care that was outside of what the government was reimbursing for, but was what people really wanted, which was to age in place at home. So that was really the beginning, and I'm a continuous learner. I love to read. I love to solve problems. So It was sort of the perfect situation for me. And it was a business model whose time had come. And of course, now there's lots and lots of people providing those kinds of services. But the model that I developed, which is a care managed model, that model is now what Humana at Home uses as their model. They bought the model from Larry Sosnow, who had founded a company called Senior Bridge. And so it really, I think I was probably 20 or 30 years ahead of my time in terms of how do we do this. And the interesting thing is now that is what most of the people in the care industry are understanding, is that if you have an overlay of care management, so someone really paying attention to what are the options and what's the best care, that really is the best model. So, so I feel fortunate that I figured that out early, and that's something that I've been advocating for many years now.
Wow. Well, I think it's amazing how we all kind of get pushed into doing something that we're not normally used to doing, even though you were in social work. And like I said, social work, I don't understand why they never pay enough for social work, because it's a lot to have to deal with other people and and do what they're doing. And then you always have to find something else in order to make the ends meet, so to speak. And that's really not what you should have to do anytime you're going to school and you're getting degrees and, you're trying to do this type of work. But it's just amazing how we all have, as business people, at one point you get pushed into doing something that you just were not really prepared to do and hadn't really thought about doing. But then here it is, because it's something that I always believe that's meant for you to do. We all have our own paths, but a lot of times we think that the paths that we have developed or we think we're going is what God has said that's for us, but then we learn later on, no, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. So it's the care of having to deal with people of age, whether it's in our own family or people outside of our family. It is not a conversation that people like to have. I lost my grandmother 5 years ago. Can't believe it's already 5 years. And my mom had to go through a lot of the same process, her and her brothers and sisters, of trying to find the proper care, because she had early Alzheimer's as well. And, we're so scared to put our family members inside of these organizations that, they have to watch them and supposed to take care of them, because you can't be with them 24/7. So, and then of course, if you're not totally educated on what's going on and you're trying to learn in the process, it's such a scary process. So how do you give advice to people who have aging parents or grandparents, and they're at that point in their lives where they, decisions have to be made? What do you think is always the best benefit? Of course, some people can't always afford some of these things, but what do you say to them to give them the advice they need to have in order to determine whether they should be in home care or whether they should be in other care outside the home?
Kimberly, that is a great question. I always start with that care management component. And I say that if you start with an aging life care professional, who are the, modern day geriatric care managers, if you start with someone who actually understands the industry and understands the options available, then it really shortens the process between making a decision, and it narrows down what kinds of things you need to look into. Because as you so wisely said, no one wants to talk about needing care. No one wants to learn about any of this aging care, all the options that are available, until there is a need. And when that need hits, oftentimes it's sudden, sometimes it's not, but oftentimes it's sudden, and the learning curve is pretty steep. So the other thing is, there isn't a one-size-fits-all. So every single person ages differently and has different types of things that constitute their frailty. So it might be mental decline, or it might be physical decline, or it could be both. Everyone has different resources, not only monetary resources, but family support or neighborhood support. So a geriatric care manager, an aging life care professional, can actually do what we call an assessment, where they really take a lot of the factors and consider them, and then come back and say, these are the best options for you. Yes, you can stay at home with care because you have a good support system and your house is safe and everything's on one floor, or no, you don't have any family here, you don't have enough money, and we need to start looking at how, and you're physically frail, we're going to have to start looking at where can you age safely. So so it really is different, but I really would start, it's really like if someone were to give you some money, or you were to make some money, and you decided you wanted to take that money and parlay it for the future, you would have to go to an expert and get some advice on how best to do that. And the same is true with aging care. So that's what I recommend: is start with the care manager, and then come up with an individualized plan. Let the whole family buy into it, and then implement that plan.
Right. And that makes sense. And like I said, I think a lot of times we don't have the conversation. So like I said, when it happens, everybody's kind of in this rush of trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do? We have the fear of not wanting to see our loved ones be left alone and making sure you hear, these awful horror stories about what could happen, whether it's in the home or outside the home, to your loved ones. But obviously we know we can't be with them 24/7. So, to be able to have this type of information passed on to people is really important. And like I think about with my parents, they're getting older, they're in their latter part of their 70s. And even though they're in great health, it's still something that weighs in the back of your mind. And really, you don't even know, it's not even always about age. We never know what's going to happen to us, even at my age, I'm 50. So you think about, how do you prepare your family for this? And I think about, what if this happens, how do I prepare my son to take care? They even have the thought in his mind that, one day I've got to take care of my mom. And, we may joke about it, but it's one of those situations where you do have to take it very seriously. And I can honestly say, in our Black communities, these are not the conversations that we have every day until we know we have to have them. And I think it's one of the things that everybody needs to have some mindset about. What is your thoughts about, it's not just about retirement, but what happens whether you retire or not retire? Because, it's having that conversation, then realizing you're going to get old one day. But the information you're talking about is very important. But I think the other thing that I want to get into on this conversation is the cost, because we all know that having somebody take care of you can be extremely expensive. How does the determination, or how is it determined to say, hey, well, the state can help you or the state can't help you, or how much money do you feel like you have to have? I mean, what would you give advice when it comes to, even as a part of retirement? Would you say that you should prepare for that as a part of your retirement as well?
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? If you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. Choose from hundreds of social casino style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Recently, a new client called me and started by saying, "Mr. Morgan, I really need your help, but I'm just a nobody." Those words stunned me, and I immediately called him back, and we're now helping him and his family after a terrible accident. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Everybody who comes to our firm at their time of need is a somebody. I grew up poor, but my grandmother was like a queen to us. At Morgan & Morgan, our goal is to level the playing field for you and your family at your time of need. The insurance company has unlimited money and resources. You need a firm who can fight them toe-to-toe. For right at 30 years, we have fought them in courtrooms throughout America. Our results speak for themselves. And always remember this: everybody is a somebody, and nobody is a nobody. Visit forthepeople.com to learn about our firm. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
Injured? Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Definitely. And again, because aging isn't a one-size-fits-all, some people live to be 99 or still run in marathons and die in their sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So age is not really the determining factor for frailty. It's more of a lifestyle and genetic determination for frailty. So care in the United States is very complicated, very fragmented, and difficult to figure out if you don't really understand the system. So most people say, "Oh, I will be fine because I'm going to get Medicare when I'm, 62 or 65." But that is not the case. Medicare does not pay for a lot. Now, I will say that because of this pandemic in the last year, a lot of emphasis on care at home, because it was the safer place to be in this last year.
Right.
A lot of emphasis has been placed on that. And a couple of things happened. One is that the medical community, the hospital systems and the skilled nursing facilities really started to realize the value of home-based care. Mm-hmm. And the second thing that happened is the use of technology. Mm. And I'm not talking about sophisticated technology. I'm talking about just using even, iPads or iPhones or tablets to be able to communicate. And so it really has opened up the healthcare professionals' understanding of how they can monitor care at home and how they can be present. I've got quotes around present, using technology so that there's some supervision in the home that is really pretty adequate. So let me back up to your cost scenario. There are two distinct ways that home care is paid for. One is private pay, and yes, that is very expensive. However, it's probably the largest growing segment of the healthcare delivery system because just the sheer numbers of people that are getting older and needing care. And there's lots and lots of home care services being started and growing all over the country. The other end of the spectrum is if you have very little money, and I'm speaking of less than $3,000 in assets, then the long-term community services, home-based services, through the Medicaid program in the various states, often does provide care. And the only problem with that is Medicaid is a combination of state and federal funds, and it is governed solely by the state. So the rules and regulations vary by each 50 states. So some have quite liberal, wonderful programs that are community home-based programs funded by Medicaid, and others have less options available. So it really is going to matter where you live. One of the things I would caution your listeners, if they do have parents with pretty limited resources, and is to contact an elder law attorney and make certain that if you do have limited resources, that you are planning how you're going to spend down those resources so that you are Medicaid eligible when the time comes. So, it's a very complicated system, which is, again, why I recommend a care manager, because there's absolutely no way that you could learn all of the nuances of what's available and who can provide it. There's just so many different options. And again, your care options will be different, whether you have a mental and a cognitive decline or whether you have a physical decline. So we do not have a uniform system of care that is fail-safe for people, that allows people not to fall through the cracks. So you really do have to have someone who manages the care, someone who's paying attention to what types of care are available and needed and appropriate, and try to match the family's resources, both financial and physical support of other family members, match that with the reality of the situation. So it's not undoable, I mean, it really is feasible to do it if you really want to age in place. For most situations, one can do that. I always like to say the determining factor is if the person needing care can get up and down out of a chair or the bed and make it to the bathroom. And if they can't do that, then that really does create a scenario where the care becomes 24/7, and that is quite expensive and burdensome.
Right. And especially because, as we get older, you still want to have your independency. So when they feel like they're starting, as humans, we feel like we're starting to lose that independency, then that's when usually problems kick in. It's because we get stubborn, right? As we get older. So.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah,
well, if you were stubborn as a younger person, you're going to get more stubborn as you get older. Whatever our personality is, it tends to, get bigger.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Because I think, we have some of the opposite. They either go to the childlike scenario, or you said they continue to have that adult authority figure that's constantly getting crazier as you get older. So, yeah. So yeah, it's like I said, it's kind of, we joke about it, but it's definitely the truth, about how we become as we, start to age and we start to think differently and our attitudes are a little differently. But when it comes to that independency, that is the number one thing I have seen and have learned, as I've watched some of my family get older, that they don't want to lose that. And that's, they get hard-headed about it. I'm just like, okay, really? So it's like, how are we going to get through this? But you do, and you work around it and everything works out the way it needs to be. But this information is just so important that we're talking about tonight. And I'm hoping that the listeners are actually truly tuning in and realizing that this is a reality. If you live long enough to get old, this is the reality of what you have to prepare for. And like I said earlier, we just don't always think that way because, of course, when you're young, you think you're going to live forever and nothing's ever going to happen to you. But, it's really, like I said, it's not even about age. Anything can happen to you at any point in your life and you have to be prepared for it. So as you have gone through many years of having this amazing business starting 81, and of course, in 1998, you started the corecubed, and you're still a part of all that, and you're still running around and doing speaking engagements and all these other things. Talk a little bit about all the success that you've had and what you are doing currently today, especially, we all know we had to do some pivoting from 2020. So talk a little bit about your success and what's going on today.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. And now I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun, Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free and each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Recently, a new client called me and started by saying, "Mr. Morgan, I really need your help, but I'm just a nobody." Those words stunned me, and I immediately called him back, and we're now helping him and his family after a terrible accident. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Everybody who comes to our firm at their time of need is a somebody. I grew up poor, but my grandmother was like a queen to us. At Morgan & Morgan, our goal is to level the playing field for you and your family at your time of need. The insurance company has unlimited money and resources. You need a firm who can fight them toe-to-toe. For right at 30 years, we have fought them in courtrooms throughout America. Our results speak for themselves. And always remember this, everybody is a somebody, and nobody is a nobody. Visit forthepeople.com to learn about our firm. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
Injured? Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
I will tell you, my first job out of college was as a programmer systems analyst, programmer first, then systems analyst. Mm-hmm. And that particular experience, which I was totally not suited for personality-wise, but because I'm an extrovert, and in order to program and do systems analysis, you pretty much have to, be an introvert and love numbers. I was good at it. It wasn't that I wasn't good at it, but what it did was it really opened up for me what is possible through technology. So when I started the first business, the Elder Care Solutions business, I really used technology in a major way. And we created a program that allowed us to schedule, home care is 24/7, 365. Right. So we used very early technology where we connected the office computers with someone at home so we could keep the office open 24/7, 365, but we didn't have to physically be in the office. So that was my first real introduction to the possibilities with technology. So when I sold that business, I started corecubed with the idea that I could work from anywhere. I had actually, one of our clients, who was also in my Rotary Club, his wife had died, and we cared for her till she died. And my staff kept saying, "You really ought to get to know this man because he has just been so amazing to his ailing wife." And I did, and we got married. So part of that's a fabulous love story. But our life together, we said, well, work hard, and then we'll travel in our spare time. So I created corecubed in 1998 as a company, as a virtual company, a little, probably 10, 15 years ahead of its time.
Exactly.
So, but because of that, the pandemic last year, when we entered into the pandemic, a couple of things. Number one is we specialize in digital marketing. So that really became the only way a lot of companies could actually get clients and appeal to clients and grow their businesses during the pandemic. So we really were totally positioned to accept, bigger workloads, greater workloads. We have a really well-oiled team, so we do a really good job. But the pandemic introduced people who were reticent to use digital marketing, introduced them to that as the only way they could market. So we really, I've sort of been at the right place at the right time.
Yes.
And so our business has grown a lot, and of course we've been used to working virtually, so that wasn't new for us. We've been doing that for 23 years, and we've just really embraced what we need to do to help other people too. We have other clients now who are saying, we don't need to go back to the office. We think we could work remotely. So now we're actually even consulting with some of our clients about how do they do a better job of working remotely and still having a good business model that's, that's continuing to grow.
Right. Wow. I mean, that's amazing. Like I said, it to hear about virtual back in 1998 was completely unheard of. I've never heard anybody talk about doing anything virtual in 98. I mean, obviously, we see little tips here and there. I mean, I can remember when I started using an actual computer, which was back in 84, 85, so because I tell people, I was talking to somebody the other day and I was like, yeah, we had typewriters and, back in the early 80s, and they were like a typewriter, so to go from that, and then you were already doing something virtual and literally was already in that arena. And then now here it is 2020. Nobody could have ever told us in 2020 we would have to go this direction. And I talk a lot about, 5 years ago when I restarted my business, I wanted to do it all virtual, and people laughed at me. They were like, oh, nobody's going to do that. And nobody wants to be, they want you to be in front of them. And then of course we had no choice. We were brought to our knees pretty much, and you had no choice. You're stuck at home. You do what you have to do and you make things work. And you're right. The business, more and more business have excelled because they have utilized this virtual world that we're living in. And of course, now we're doing a lot more bringing back some of the hybrid type businesses where you're having a little bit of both. And I think that's a great way to do business, and to be able to give people the opportunity to not have to worry about leaving their home every time they may think they have a sniffle, so to speak. Get on your do your virtual, and you're going to do it telewise versus having to get in the car, drive 20 miles or sit in traffic. Of course, out here in DC, we're always in traffic, so it's
constantly.
But it's just remarkable how we live in a world where you think you have to do everything one way, and then all of a sudden things turn around where you realize that you can have that flexibility, and it's made people come out of their comfort zone. And like I said, your model has been around so long that by the time this all did hit, it was really no big deal. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but it was like, hey, now you have expanded even further because you're teaching other people how to do something you've been doing since 1998, which is crazy. The more I keep thinking about how many years ago that was, that you've excelled in that. And it just, like I said, just goes to prove every day that you have to be forward focused. You can't always be stagnant and be afraid to come out of your comfort zone, because you just never know what is going to happen. And now you have set the tone many years ago that people are now trying to jump on the bandwagon. Like I always tell people, you're already behind the curve if you haven't already started doing certain things that should have been done some time ago. Because usually it's because of fear, because you're just comfortable is usually what most people, end up being. And so now that they are out of that comfort zone, they're all picking up on this new industry, a way of marketing and doing business. So in the futuristic perspective, what is it that you're telling these new so-called experts industry today?
The thing that I well, number one is for your technology, you really have to have good bandwidth, because there's nothing more aggravating than trying to talk to people and they stop. They freeze up. So the other thing that has made us very successful is the fact that we recognize the fact that we actually need a program. We use Basecamp to manage the projects, and there's lots of different. The reason we use it is that's what we've been using for a long time. There may be a better way to do it, but it certainly has worked for us. And that's the one thing that I think is really important when you're working virtually, because you have to have a way to see what's going on. So, if you've got 10 people on a project and everyone's assigned to do things, you can't go to each of them and say, how are you doing? What are you doing? Constantly. So if you have it set up correctly from a management standpoint, then you can actually determine progress on projects and you can see if there's any issues. And so that has been an absolute godsend to us, because it allows us to run lots and lots of projects and be able to just sort of, stop in and make certain that everything is going on, just, looking at it from a management standpoint. Right. So I think that having that is project management component has been crucial. So I highly recommend that. And I have clients now who are doing more virtually and being successful, but they haven't quite determined how they're going to do that management of their workforce. And that's the one part that I think needs more emphasis if someone wants to actually work virtually, because you really do need to, from a management standpoint, you need to be able to look at stuff and from a moment's glance figure out what's going on. The other interesting thing is when you're working virtually, it's really easy to determine who's working and who's not working.
That's right.
Very easy. And when you're with people, their personalities actually make you like them or not like them and think, be more favorable about what they're doing. But when you're working virtually, everybody's the same.
That's right.
There's no color, there's no education, there's no whatever.
Absolutely.
It's
just,
you just are looking at results, and it really makes for a great working environment, I think. Although I do like to get together with people.
Right. Yeah, every now and then it's
which
great.
We haven't. Yeah. So the Zoom meetings, though, I swear, we've been using Zoom for years, and I never thought. I mean, now I'm on Zoom all day long, and I do not like that. I much preferred having some time I wasn't on Zoom, but now everybody's doing Zoom. So
exactly.
Whether it's volunteer work or work, it's all on Zoom. So, and I've got a great collection now of necklaces and tops.
Yeah, because nobody gets to see you from the waist down. Oh my goodness, I get you on that one. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I love how you're talking about how important it is to understand project management and realizing that everybody is literally at the same level when you're virtually and you're working from home. Because I always used to hear, and I was like, so tired of hearing it. Oh, we need everybody in the office so we can see what you're doing. I'm like, you waste more time chitter-chatting instead of getting work done when you're in the office, And now everybody has to perform at the same level, whether they like it or not. And you can tell when people aren't performing when you're working virtually, because you can see the workload go down or up, or they're just not doing their part, because everybody has to maintain their part when they're virtually, because they're not combined together, and you can't just push off that work to somebody else when you're standing in front of them versus you're doing it yourself. So I love that attitude. And you're definitely right that project management is absolutely a must, no matter what business you're doing. I've been doing project management for almost 20 years or more. And, before project management was ever called project management, it was always project management. But, of course, now everybody's making money because they can say, okay, go out and get this certificate. I'm like, really? It's another way to do something, got to have this. Can't you have a degree? You got to have this certification. I'm like, okay, well, that's another whole topic of conversation we'll have to get into some other day. But it's one of my pet peeves, but I just think that it's just important that people understand that there are definitely specific things in business that you need to have as a part of your foundation, and you've mentioned those very clearly, to the listeners about what it means to be in business. But I want to ask you one other thing that is always somebody, I'm sure, asking you, what do you do to start a business? What good advice would you give them about starting a business, Merrily?
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.
Recently, a new client called me and started by saying, Mr. Morgan, I really need your help, but I'm just a nobody. Those words stunned me, and I immediately called him back. And we're now helping him and his family after a terrible accident. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Everybody who comes to our firm at their time of need is a somebody. I grew up poor, but my grandmother was like a queen to us. At Morgan & Morgan, our goal is to level the playing field for you and your family at your time of need. The insurance company has unlimited money and resources. You need a firm who can fight them toe-to-toe. For right at 30 years, we have fought them in courtrooms throughout America. Our results speak for themselves. And always remember this. Everybody is a somebody, and nobody is a nobody. Visit forthepeople.com to learn about our firm, Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
Injured? Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Well, number one, I think you really have to be passionate about whatever you're doing. And the second thing would be always hire people that are smarter and better at whatever it is you're trying to get done than you are. So if you're always hiring up and you're not and you're confident that the people you're hiring know more than you do, then you will always continue to grow because you're not limited by your own limitations. So, and I think having faith in yourself and being persistent. There's a great quote about persistence being it's sort of the end all be all. And I would agree with that. Now that's assuming that your idea is good,
right?
and that people are going to pay you what it is you're charging for whatever you're offering. But I really think persistence is the key, and self-confidence, that, because you mentioned something earlier about people laughing at you or saying something, you really have to be confident in yourself and know that what you're doing is right. So that's a lot of things. That's not just one thing. But I think the biggest thing is when you're hiring people, make certain that you're always hiring people that know more than you do and are better than whatever it is you're trying to hire for.
Exactly.
So that way you'll always grow.
Yeah, exactly. Because, like to say, if you think if you're the smartest person in the room, then what's the purpose, right? Everybody in here.
Exactly.
So, yeah, because we always have a few of those, and that know better than everybody else. That's just a part of being in business or doing anything in life, really. But this has been a phenomenal conversation, and I have learned so much about what it means to, get the understanding of aging and what aging care business is about, and how to deal with the different agencies and what comes with that. Because like I said, we have had our own family experience with it, and I wasn't as involved as much as my mom and her siblings, but they definitely learned a lot in being able to have this information and sharing with people, I think is really important in preparing yourself for your future, because like you said, if we all live long enough, we are all going to age, and these are things that we need to think about. But Merrily, you have been a phenomenal guest. But before we end the show, like I said, if there's anything that you want to talk about as in reference to you have something new coming up, do you have any anything you want to share in that perspective, please let us know. And then of course, let us know how we can get a hold of you if people are interested in learning more about corecubed or need information about care management for their families.
Well, I'm going to start with my Help Choose Home podcast, which is available anywhere podcasts are available. And we start our 4th season this year. So the whole concept behind the Help Choose Home podcast is to make it easier for consumers to understand this very complicated care at home process. So that's in its 4th season. That starts soon, and anywhere podcasts can be found, you can find Help Choose Home. CoreCubed is corecubed.com, and we are pretty much everywhere, all through social media and on the web. And we do a lot of outreach and community education about Help Choose Home. And then I mentioned also that I work for Access, which is a global healthcare technology company. And Access is always looking for talent and skill. And because of the pandemic, there is no location requirement now. We have offices in Mumbai, in Lagos, Nigeria, in the Philippines, and in Dallas, Texas. So, and I can be reached there as well. So that's pretty much what I'm doing and how you can reach me.
Well, there's no reason that we cannot find you. So, and I always love talking to a fellow podcaster. So, hello. I didn't know you were into podcasting, so that's even better.
Yes, ma'am.
Definitely a great podcast show. So I have to look that up and share that information, because it's, like you said, it's, learning and trying to understand what it's going to take to get prepared, ask those questions that you don't know. That's a great, definitely a great podcast. And I always tell people in business, if you don't have a podcast show, you are definitely behind the curve. You got to have a podcast show, because this is where you learn so much, and that you can share at a further reach, to get the information out there to people so that they can have an understanding of who you are, what you're doing, and then, of course, what they can do in order to make things easier for themselves and their families. So congratulations on the podcast show in the 4th season. And again, I thank you for coming on to the show with me this evening. Really, it has been such a pleasure.
Thank you, Kimberly. It's been my pleasure, and I hope that you stay safe.
And thank you. I am, and I will. And you also do the same, and enjoy, you're traveling around and hanging out and doing what you love to do, of course. And for everyone else, I hope you have enjoyed this evening's show. But before we close tonight, we have learned a lot about the insights into the future of aging care, what you need to do, how to prepare for yourselves as you start thinking about retirement, even prior to that. And as Merrily said, if you have questions, you can find her on all social media platforms, as well as listening to the podcast show anywhere that you listen to your podcast today. And it also leads me to ask my listeners, what do you wish to existed for you in 2021? I'm asking that because a lot of times people think that everything has to be done in quarters or has to be done every year. Everything should be thought about daily. Think about what it is you want to do. You can start now. You're never too old to start doing something that you love. It's never too soon. It's never too late. So just if you're interested, you want to learn about how to use your voice in a certain way, whether it's being an author, maybe even doing a podcast show, as we've been talking about here just a few minutes ago, please reach out to me and just chat with me about your goals so we can help you get moving. You can reach out to me at Kimberly, WSBILC @gmail.com. And you also can reach out to me through the website at www.wsbilc.com. And as well, I want to remind you all that we are doing a campaign raising $5,000 to add additional show and also do some free virtual live Q&A sessions with our favorite entrepreneurs that you guys have heard here. And we've interviewed more than 200. So you have plenty to choose from and plenty of questions and answers, and get more resources for your success. And again, we'd like to thank you all for listening to tonight's show. We'll be back next week with more amazing guests. Be sure to follow us right here on iHeartRadio, or either download our mobile app on Google Play or wherever you listen to your podcast. But until then, you all enjoy the rest of your evening, and good night.
Good night, everyone. We will be back next Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Follow us on Spreaker, www.spreaker.com/user/WSBI. View our new WSBI website anytime at www.wsbillc.com and on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. And now I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free and each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
People are driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. The hiring process can be slow and overwhelming. Simplify hiring with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform. With over 350 million global monthly visitors according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. That's Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Terms and conditions apply.